Craig. Back to you. We're gonna start the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Man, Mike Tomlin, man. I think Mike Tomlin's one of the better coaches in the NFL. He's never had a losing record. He's got a team Super Bowl. They won 2 of them. And he's just a well-respected head coach around the league. Generally, when you look at it, it's always been him and Ben Roethlisberger tied together. So as Ben Roethlisberger goes, seems like the Steelers go. But since he's getting older, he has to rely on his defense more, and his defense has to step up a lot more to help this team out. I think this year is probably going to be one of, if not his toughest challenge. Add in an extra game, and now he has to deal with the threat of another team in the division stepping up with the Browns. It's already been the Ravens, pretty much been them and the Ravens the last, I don't know, like 10 years it seems like. Just them 2 teams over and over again. You had a little glimpse of Cincinnati in there when they had Andy Dalton, but for the most part, it's just been those 2 teams. And now you have the Browns in there, and then you have the Bengals stepping up. So he's going to have to do one of his better coaching jobs to get this team to back to the playoffs, because the way they ended the season last year, I know a lot of fans in Pittsburgh, they weren't happy with that ending, especially starting out, I believe, like 11-0, and then they lost 4 or 5, and they got blown out in the first game of playoffs for them and against the Browns of all teams, and they just looked. I believe Ben Roethlisberger had like 5 interceptions or something. It was just crazy. So he has to get that team back to wanting to win, and they lost some players on offense on the line this year, so it's going to be tough for Tomlin to get this team back to winning the division or competing for a division, because I think they're going into the season right now, I think they're 3rd best in that division, which hasn't been the case for them in years, probably before Tomlin even got there. It's going to be a tough ride for him. As far as the offense goes, Ben Roethlisberger is going to have to do something, because last year he looked like a shell of himself. He's just getting older, obviously. He can't keep holding on to the ball, pump faking, and doing all that like he used to do anymore. He can't run with the ball anymore. So he's going to have to figure out. He has weapons around him, which is crazy, because he has 3 good wide receivers. They brought Juju back. Deontay Johnson, is that his name? I believe he's still there. What's the guy? Carpool, is that his name? Claypool. Yeah, he's there. They got Harris, the running back. So Ebron is still there. So they got some weapons that they can just, like Dallas. They have weapons there. They got weapons in Pittsburgh. It's just, unlike Dallas, the quarterback here he's not the same. He's on the verge of getting out of there. This is going to be, to me, I think they might have to get Haskins ready or Rudolph ready, just in case, because I don't know if Ben Roethlisberger is going to be able to make it through the season, whether it's health reasons or whether it's just performance reasons. Especially if he plays like he ended the season off last year and comes out and plays like that, it's just not going to end well for Pittsburgh. But the offense is solid, really good. So there should be no reasons why Ben Roethlisberger's stats or numbers or production, the team's production in general, should not be a top, just like Dallas, a top 10 offense. It's all up to Ben Roethlisberger at this point. The defense, I like TJ Watt still. I thought he should have been Defensive Player of the Year, but he wasn't. The defensive line is going to be, the defense is pretty much just the key. It's the opposite of Dallas for the most part, because, like I said, I don't know what they're going to get out of Big Ben. If they can come in and have a top 10 defense, which they're very capable of, I think that they can make a case for a playoff spot. Now, the only thing I can say is that even though they have a really good defense or a great defense, is they have a tough division. So I can even see, it's going to be far-fetched, but I can see the Bengals giving them a run, at least maybe splitting the series this year. I can see that if Burrow stays healthy, just because I don't know what I'm going to really see out of Pittsburgh this year. As great as the defense is, and as really good as the offense looks, minus Ben Roethlisberger, 17 games. I don't have them making the playoffs, but I do have them going above 500. I'm probably gonna say 9-8. Kind of same thing I said with Dallas.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Corey, Pittsburgh Steelers.
As Craig touched on, when it comes to Mike Tomlin, there's just not much need to say. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. You know what you're getting there. And he's one of the best in the NFL, and he's well respected. So, yeah, the offense is going to be the question mark for this team. I think the success of the Pittsburgh Steelers this year is going to hinge on the right arm of Ben Roethlisberger. I feel like he showed an inability to consistently get the ball down the field last year, which has been a staple of their offenses, taking the chunk shots and making big plays. It seemed like once defenses started sitting on all of those underneath crossing routes and slants and screens, that the offense just fell apart, and that caused their skid. They have the skill position talent. As Craig said, I'm really high on Harris. I think he's a really good running back. He's a perfect fit for what Pittsburgh wants to do. They got the receivers. You've got weapons at tight end. The offensive line, I think, is a big question mark. They did have some turnover. Pouncey retired. They let their left tackle walk. And the offensive line already wasn't great last year. You're going to have a career journeyman like Joe Haig could end up starting like left tackle or something for them. That's not good when you have a quarterback that needs to be kept upright. So I don't know if that bodes well for the Steelers. The defense is going to have to carry the team 100%. Also, with free agency, I feel like they lost a little bit of their depth on defense. And with adding a 17th game, it's really going to challenge depth for teams. It's going to be even more important. The Melvin Ingram signing, I think, was a really good one to try to replace Dupree. But I don't know that the defense will be enough to help overcome some of the struggles of Roethlisberger. I'm not saying ever. Obviously, Roethlisberger is going to end up in the Hall of Fame someday. But at this point in his career, I think he's the worst quarterback in that division. And he's a guy that historically hasn't really taken care of his body. He hasn't gone the Tom Brady route where he's watch what he puts into it, works out, takes care of himself. But trying to do that this late in his career, is that really going to work? His play style has always opened him up to taking a lot more hits than the average quarterback. Eventually, that was going to catch up with him at some point. So I feel like just his play style was going to mean he wasn't going to be able to play into his 40s more than likely. And so you can combine Roethlisberger's decline and the fact that, as Craig said, the division's a lot better than what it's been in years past. It's not just the Ravens. It's the Browns are a legitimate threat to win that division this year. And if Joe Burrow stays healthy and if that offensive line can protect Burrow at all, I don't know that it would be insane if the Steelers finished in the cellar in the division. Their defense is going to have to play lights out football for them to make the playoffs. I think that's a lot to ask. So I'm going to say my prediction is 7-10. Tomlin's first losing season. I think the Steelers made a big mistake in not taking steps to put in a contingency plan or a progression from Roethlisberger. Dwayne Haskins is talented, but there's a lot of issues there. He's not going to be ready to take over a franchise. Mason Rudolph has proven he's trash. He's not an option. And Josh Dobbs is your only other option on the roster. I guess at some point you can maybe throw Haskins out there, see what you've got, but I think they may end up regretting not trying to move up last year for a quarterback or go after a guy or something.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, those are both great takes. Mike Tomlin, once again, kudos, man. He's one of the best coaches in the NFL. But I think for them this year is about getting healthy, stay healthy, getting back to the basics. But they lost a lot of pieces on the offensive line. I think their whole offensive line is new. But if anybody can gel them together and coach up young players, is Mike Tomlin. The offense, Big Roethlisberger did show up slimmer to camp than ever, normal years. He's probably going to produce this year, but it's probably going to be his last year in Pittsburgh. Probably. Especially if they go 7-10, they're probably going to draft a quarterback. The running back position, Najee Harris, they're saying he's looking phenomenal. Fresh, likes to work, he's catching the ball in the backfield. He's getting comparisons to a young Le'Veon. Don't know yet. Got to put on pads. Got to wait. But he's looking great. The receivers are deep. Juju came back. Chase Claypool's a deep threat. And then you have Deontay Johnson. And then you have James Washington. You're deep. The receiving core is young. They can play. They're deep. The tight end, Eric Ebron. And then they drafted from Penn State, Pat Freiermuth. Hopefully I'm saying that right. So they're once again, they're deep. The problem is the offensive line. The only veteran they have on it is Trey Turner. And he's said he's tasked with leading these young men. So it's gonna be the offensive line is gonna make or break their team. Now the defense is stacked. The defensive line has Cam Hayward, Steven, the linebackers. Now, Bud Dupree was a big loss, but Melvin Ingram, I think, is looking for either another contract, and I feel like he fits right into the Pittsburgh mentality, the work ethic, and he could probably deliver 7, 8 sacks, which is good. Of course, on the other side, you have T.J. Watt. There's no explanation there. It's one of the best linebackers of all of football. Now, the defensive backs are pretty good. Joe Hayden's in a contract year. He had the most interceptions last year. I guess he had a rejuvenation in Pittsburgh. The other side, I got Cam Sutton, but the back end, they have Minka Fitzpatrick, who is excellent. They love play. And then they have Tremont Edmonds, who's a nice fill-in-the-box safety. So they fit in and play off each other. So I think that defense is probably going to top 5 or 6. But it does depend if they're on the field more. But I think I think they can carry the team. I think their defense is that good. The overall prediction, it's the offensive line. They need time to gel. I think every other piece is in place. I think with the offensive line, I think the Steelers are going to be one of those teams that start off slow and finish strong versus last year starting out strong and finishing slow. I think they're going to start off slow and then they're going to pick it up because the offensive line is going to gel. They're going to move it around. And I think they're going to go back to running the ball a lot. If you have a crappy offensive line, running the ball, quick passes, and a good defense could win you a couple games here and there. And if any coach could do it, Mike Tomlin is. If this was, that's only certain coaches that can do that. So my prediction is I have them at 11-7 or 10-8. Like they're kind of, yeah, man. I think they're gonna, yeah. No, yeah, 11-6 or 10-7. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think they're gonna I think they're gonna start off slow and they'll be back in the playoffs. And that's it. But it's gonna go like that.